The Maple Leafs dropped Game 5 in an embarrassing fashion. Are they dead in the water? Let's discuss on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Maple Leafs lose 6-1 to the Florida Panthers in what was a pivotal Game 5, and it was possibly one of the worst losses that we've seen in this 9-year Matthews, Marner, Nylander era, Dave.
Yeah, on the stage that it was, we came to this podcast, came to the game, going into the game saying, big boys need to step it up. And what do? They do what they always do, Mike. Do what they always do when the pressures turn. It wasn't at an all-time high, just a little bit. Nothing. No show. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, right from the get-go, like start to finish, I thought that the Leafs were severely outplayed by the Florida Panthers. Like just an all-out awful showing by Toronto. I mean, it was just an onslaught from the first period onward. 13-6 were the shots shots for in the first period between the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. But what was even more kind of disturbing to see, Dave, I saw Jonas Siegel put this in his article post game. The shot attempts when Matthews, Marner, and Nyes were on the ice together, they got outshot 11-1 in the first period. 11-1 were the shot attempts, which is just disgusting. Like the fact that those three players who we knew had to have a big game, like they had to come out and they're back on home ice. They just lost 2. They had a no-show performance in Game 4. They had to come out firing in Game 5. And that's the first period that they put forward in front of their fans. No wonder Leafs Nation and the people inside Scotiabank Arena were booing. No wonder an Auston Matthews jersey hit the ice in the second period. I mean, Craig Berube said himself post-game, he's like, the only thing I take out of that game is it was disappointing how we started, because I'm sure the whole team knew that they had to get off to a good start and try and, put a halt to the momentum that Florida had grabbed the last 2 games. They did not. A pitiful first period performance, and they found themselves down and out early and really were never able to recover. It went from bad to worse to ugly real quick.
And the worst part of it is there was nothing done to change it in any way possible. Like it was going bad, it was getting worse, and nothing changed.
No.
And it's like, why are we trotting this out like time and time again?
Dude, it's really the same old Leafs. It's the same old Leafs, different cast of characters, but it's the same Leafs and the same problem. And Sheldon Keefe relied on like the core 4 so much, right, to try and get something going. He relied on them and he stuck to it, said, all right, these guys are gonna go, right? Like they're getting their chances, getting their opportunities. The process is there. Something's got to drop. The shooting percentages can't be 3% forever, but somehow they are. And no one is doing anything about it. Everyone's just keep hoping and praying that eventually, the goal fountain is going to burst and these guys are all of a sudden going to come out and score a bunch of goals and lead this team to the promised land, lead them to victory. And we're 9 years into this thing. It just hasn't happened yet. And Craig Berube fell into that trap again here tonight, right? Like it took him way too long, way too late to make a change. Yeah. You get shut out in the last game, you should have considered making a little change in your top 6. Right at the gate, and it's been multiple games here that Matthews and Marner and we'll throw Nyes in there because he's on that line. I think he's been the best player of those 3 on that line, which is telling you something. There should have been a change earlier in the game, if not to start like make that swap. And I'll be curious to see if he goes back to it again. I know they took out the lineup blender, late in the game. It was kind of over at that point, but I'll be curious to see how game 6 starts out if those two aren't aligned together, because I didn't like what I saw here tonight, not one bit from start to finish.
They set the tone, and they set the tone in the worst way possible. And frankly, like what makes this loss so disappointing, we have seen this team constantly crumble under the pressure, unable to get, take that extra gear. But what they usually do is they keep it close. They're within a goal, and it's a breaker. And okay, like they had chances and all that. This time they flipped the script a little bit because they got severely outplayed, outclassed. They didn't score a goal until the final minute of the game because one thing we thought was going to happen was Nick Robertson scoring a goal. God damn it, he didn't disappoint us. Thank you, Nick, for that one, because it would have been 2 straight shutouts, because that's also never happened to this team in the playoffs too. And that to me is what's the disappointing part, is that I have seen coaches in the All-Star game. Remember when Bruce Cassidy or Jim Montgomery was coaching the team in the 3-on-3, and Matthews and Marner were playing so bad in an All-Star game, he split them up?
Yeah.
Why is it taking this coach, who is supposed to bring a fresh, new perspective, how did it take him that long to realize it's not working?
That's a question for Berube, and he's been asked that. He's not really giving an answer. It's the problem.
No.
Like, he's just basically saying, hey, look, it's not just on those guys. It's a whole team. None of us played well tonight, right? So he's not trying to put it on those two or on the core, the top 6 in general, the guys who are supposed to provide offense. He is trying to put it on the team. And to his credit, the whole team played garbage tonight, right? All through the lineup, no one really had a good game tonight. I'm not too sure how that happens, that 19, 20 players can possibly all play poorly on one night, but it really did look like the Panthers were in a completely different league than the Maple Leafs tonight. Like, it was crazy. 21 giveaways for the Maple Leafs tonight. That's what they're credited with. 21 giveaways, and none worse than the Mitch Marner goal. I mean, what the hell was Mitch Marner thinking there? The spinorama backhand pass from his own end gets picked off, and the Panthers pounce. They go the other way off in the rush, and Marner can't recover, and boom, that's a goal. What was that? Was that the 3-0 goal? Yeah, so it was Boquist on the 3-0 goal, and it was like Marner. Like, that was the second goal that those guys were on the ice for. First of all, but you're just sitting there thinking, like, how could you possibly make that play in a time like this? You're down 2-0 in a virtual must-win game, and you make such a stupid boneheaded play like that through the middle. It just makes no sense. And it's just, you look at the way that he played tonight, you can make an argument that this was his worst game he's played as a Maple Leaf. It really, really was just such a piss poor performance from Mitch Marner, the kind that almost makes you think, like, if the Leafs don't end up coming back to win this series, like that performance may have sealed his fate here in Toronto. Because if you ask people on Twitter right now, they're ready for the Mitch Marner era to end here in the 6 after that performance.
Yeah, and the worst part about that play is he's along the boards. He decides to stop up because he gets a little bit of pressure. Not even like a whole lot. No, he wasn't going to get hit. The guy was going to just try to stick check him. The guy misses the stick check. He still has control. And instead of taking a second and maybe making the safer play, smarter play, he decides to just throw it out there.
Well,
and
no look, backhand, spinorama, sauce pass up the middle. What are we doing?
Like, it's just like that was a total recipe for disaster. And you got all the other guys are flying up the zone. Nobody's coming back. But then it's like, then go and stop the pass from going to the net, because that's exactly where that play was going. Yeah, the other defenseman, I think it was Ekman Larson, was covering Reinhardt. So he's got that guy. Your job, make sure the guy that literally skated right behind you doesn't get that pass. And it's Adam. Was it Jesper Boquist or Adam?
Jesper, the guy who was a healthy scratch the last game and only came in because of the Evan Rodriguez injury. He ended up with 2 points tonight.
He had more points in this game than any of the top players on the Leafs.
He had more points in this game than the core four have had in the last two combined.
Yeah. This game was not about talent, because the Florida Panthers, what they did not take a lot of talent, because you look at the players who showed up for the Panthers tonight and scored the goals.
Oh, you want me to rifle off the goal scorers?
Yes, please.
Aaron Ekblad, Dmitry Kulikov, Jesper Boquist, Nico Mikkola. Like,
Adam
what
Greer
are we doing here?
Or AJ Greer.
AJ Greer scored the 5th goal, and then finally Sam Bennett, an actual core piece, scored when it was all but over, scored the 6th goal. But the first 5 goals was all defensemen in depth. Like, it wasn't as if they were getting beat by Sam Reinhart or by Barkov or by Marchand. Like, Dmitry Kulikov. You got Nico Mikkola taking clap bombs, beating Joseph Woll cleanly. Like, that was a terrible goal. Terrible goal. You cannot give up. And that was kind of the one that made you go, check, please, right, at that point. So, Woll didn't play great defensively. I mean, Chris Tannev's out here taking bullets, saying he didn't like the way he played. I didn't think Jake McCabe had another good game. It's just up and down the lineup, not a great performance. And it's unfortunate because, they had an opportunity to come out back on home ice, wrestle the advantage back, take a 3-2 lead back to Florida, give themselves 2 cracks at the Panthers. And now they find themselves down 3-2, and they got to win 2 straight in order to move on to the 3rd round. I think I saw, 80% chance basically for the team that goes up 3-2 after a 2-2 tie. So Toronto now at this point, it's a 20% chance that they can make it through and win these next 2 games. I saw a stat from I think it was Dom Lucian from The Athletic, his model, when the Maple Leafs made it 2-0 in game 3, the odds of them winning the series at that point was 72%. 72%. They were up 2-0 in game 3 with a chance to go up 3-0 in that game, and they squandered it. They were up 3-1 at one point, squandered it in the 3rd period, and they really haven't been able to get going ever since, right? Like ever since that moment, the Leafs, they failed to close it out. They lost that game in overtime, and they've been thoroughly outplayed ever since. And tonight, probably the worst outing that this team has had all playoffs and possibly of the Matthews, Marner, Nylander era. Let's come back. Let's get to the good, the bad, the ugly, and we can look ahead to game 6, which is now do or die for Toronto. We know what usually happens with those players in do or die games. Can it be different? I don't know. We'll discuss a little bit later on here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NHL playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in games before the face-off starts. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players are showing up in the biggest moments? How can you keep track of their trends that help you build that next bet? If you've got a read on who's heating up, why not back it up with a same game parlay? New to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. You head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Network. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts and also up on YouTube. And just an FYI, if the season ends on Friday, which is possible, if the Leafs lose on Friday, the season is over, Dave and I will still be here Monday through Friday, all May and June, and then we'll also be here throughout the summer as well. It's a 365 podcast, just so you guys are all aware. So just because if the Leafs lose on Friday and the season's done, the podcast still rolls on. Lots to talk about when it comes to the Maple Leafs. Never a dull day in Leafland. And it was a dull performance, though. We can agree on that. It was a dull performance in Game 5. Toronto losing 6-1 to the Florida Panthers. Florida was 6 straight goals in the game. And then Nicky Bobby scores with in the final minute of the game. Nice little play, I guess, made by the third line there. I guess that was good. So we can kind of transition into the good, the bad, the ugly. I thought that, that line had a little bit of pop. They did score the lone goal of the game and then got into some rough stuff afterwards, showed the slightest bit of pushback. So I guess that was good, Dave. There wasn't a whole lot of good to pull from this game. So I think that might be just about it.
Really, it is, because they did exactly what this team needed to be doing from the start. Win a puck battle in the corner. I think that was like Lawrence. It was like Lawrence, Domi, and Robinson there. Make a good play in front, crash the net. How did it take Nick Robertson to be the one that crash the net? He took what was a scumbag move by Aaron Ekblad. Like, Aaron Ekblad is just like, I'm just gonna maul you, and probably would have been a penalty. Actually, no, probably wouldn't have been a penalty, because why would we expect a penalty for a play like that? But what I love the most about it, because Robertson scores, Max Domi, even though he had taken stupid penalties in this game, he still stood up for his teammate, went right after Ekblad, and was like, yeah, no, we're not, at this point, not taking that anymore. And thankfully, finally, a teammate stood up for another teammate. But it was late in the game.
It should take more than 59 minutes into a hockey game for both of those things to happen.
Absolutely.
Right? I think that's kind of the problem. Like, the Leafs don't find the score sheet until the 59th minute, and then they finally show a little bit of pushback with some pushing and shoving, in the late, in the final few minutes of the game. They started to show a little bit of pushback, I guess, maybe trying to get their pound of flesh, but it's tough to do against that team, man. That's a battle-tested squad in the Florida Panthers, and it felt like maybe they were a little bit on like pilot mode in the first couple of games, but that physical presence has certainly been wearing down the Maple Leafs. It's very clear and evident that that's been the case. I mean, Florida had how many hits tonight? 54 hits. 54 hits tonight. There's 103 hits total made in the game tonight between the Leafs and Panthers. So it was a heavy hockey game, and clearly the Panthers are just a better team when it comes to playing that style of hockey. And they flex those muscles, literally flex those muscles.
Yep.
All right, the bad, Dave. What do you want to pick from the plethora of items that could be here in the bad? What do you got?
Bad. There's so much bad.
We gotta save
I would just say the lack of pushback physically. There were a few guys throwing hits, but nobody was taking opportunities to try to throw a hit, try to get wear down. The Panthers were just like, we're untouchable. We're like, no desire, as I said, go in the forecheck, pressure the defenseman. None of that. There was no pushback from this team. Again, I know people say, well, you shouldn't be surprised at that. I would have thought that in a game like this, you're at home, try to get some energy, some momentum. Nothing. Nobody took the charge to do that.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's very, very surprising. For me, I mean, there was a couple things, obviously, but I did not like the Mikkola goal on Joseph Wall. Like that, you gotta have that. That's a seeing eye slap shot from a guy who doesn't score a lot, doesn't have that good of a shot. It wasn't all that deceptive. Wall just not on his game. He was clearly a little shaken because that's one that he makes 9 out of 10 times with his glove and just went right over it. And that was kind of when you knew it's like, all right, check please. This game.
I thought they were going to pull him after that. They probably should have.
Yeah, and they let him get into the third period. Then the AJ Greer goal happened, and in came Matt Murray into the game. I can't say I expected to see Matt Murray in a Maple Leafs playoff game at the beginning of the year, but here we are. Matt Murray was playing playoff minutes for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the year of our Lord 2025. How about that? How about that, Dave?
Just goes to show how this season has just been how everything it was the first time they used 3 goaltenders since the 80s in a playoff series. Unbelievable. It happens. Injuries happen, but like this was an injury related that Matt Murray got in. It was the team was so bad, we had to do a mercy pull on Joseph Woll because. And look, I understand the 4th goal, brutal. But like the guy was seeing shots that Bobrovsky wasn't seeing, because Bobrovsky, everyone's talking about, oh, he's on his game. 2-3 stops I felt were hard that he had to make. The breakaway on Nylander, the nice play, and maybe that got them dejected. Maybe that's what led them to just be like, all right, we're not winning tonight. It's sad, but I think that played a part of it. But like, Joseph Woll was tested way more than Bobrovsky, and I can't sit here and say like, oh, that fourth goal was a killer. But it gets tougher when you're allowing all those goals and there's nothing coming on the other side.
Yeah, the scoring chances tonight: Florida 38, Toronto 21, which is kind of generous, to be honest with you. I thought it was quite generous to have it at 21 scoring chances, but Florida 56% of the expected goals. Thought even that was a little generous. Could have been a little bit higher, I'd imagine. It felt like the Panthers were in full control. It felt every bit of a 6-1 thumping too. It really did, strangely. But yeah, it wasn't a good game overall. But for me, the ugly, I know we kind of talked about it a moment ago, but like that spinorama backward sauce pass from Mitch Marner is just not a play you can make in the playoffs. Not a play that you can make in the playoffs, especially down 2 goals at that point. You're trying to come back. You just got to keep it simple. And you know that play drives Berube nuts. And I'd imagine there's going to be a conversation had between Berube and Mitch Marner after tonight's game. And I don't think it's going to go very well for Mitch, because that was one of the most boneheaded plays that he's made in the playoffs since he got to the NHL. And it was a costly goal. Like, there's a big difference between 2-0 and 3-0. And that play alone really just sunk him in a way. And it's your best player who does it. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, we were expecting you to have yourself a big game, right? Back-to-back games here where he didn't register a single shot on net. It was time for Mitch Marner to show up, and he didn't. He continued to fade away and back into those bushes, Homer Simpson style, and look pedestrian. Even worse, he was actually he hurt the team. His performance was a hindrance on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and none worse than that spinorama pass. I still can't believe that he made that play in a playoff game in that moment, on that spot on the ice where he put that puck. None of it makes any sense to me. You would think after 9 years of making mistakes like that, you'd realize this I can't do this. I need to find a way to make the smart play, the smart outlet, turn, chip it off the boards. That's how I've got to get the puck out. You can't do what you did, man. And you got burned for it. And honestly, might cost him his career in Toronto. It really might cost him here in Toronto. Like, if Brad Treliving's upstairs looking at that, he's thinking like, this guy still hasn't learned after 9 years that you can't do that. It's between the ears, and maybe he just can't get it done in the playoffs. Like, that's what's going through the minds of every Maple Leaf fan right now. I guarantee you it's going through the mind of Brad Treliving as well. He can be as talented as all hell, and he is. He's a very talented player. He's got all the talent in the world. But when it doesn't come through when they need it in the playoffs and postseasons, in this game 5, in game 6s, game 7s, I mean, you showed the stat yesterday, didn't you, about how this guy just absolutely fades out in the playoffs, or in game 5 through 7. What was it? 5 through 7. He's got 10 points in games 5 through 7 in his career, like 21 or 22 games, only like 10 points. That's not enough for a guy like Mitch Marner. And you look at how many times he's been on the ice for goals against. Well, tonight, another 2 goals against while out there on the ice, and they were pretty brutal at that. And he was a big part of, the second one, obviously, with that spinorama pass. So just an ugly performance overall from Mitch, from him and Austin. I guess he can't really say that he played, any better or much better. But I just, after 9 years, I can't believe that we're still seeing those two, and still seeing this core 4 just fade in big games like this. It's really, really just kind of nauseating at this point.
It is, and like the first goal of the game kind of signified it too, right? Matthews tries to make a play down low, goes off,
loses a puck battle, and
just a lot of standing around. And the Panthers they swarm And then, like you look at just the whole sequence of the play. No one's boxing out. Nobody's trying to win the puck. No one's hitting anything.
Yeah,
Like,
Riley fails to clear the puck, which has been another issue all series long.
yep. So if that's your definition of competing, maybe go play some beer league instead, because that's not going to win you much in the NHL, not in the playoffs.
Brother, this was the same old Leafs. The same old Leafs. No compete, no pushback, no physicality. And once again, Dave, no goals. And that's been the problem all along for this Maple Leafs team. And it's those big boys up top. I know as much as Tree Living, as much as Berube want to say, it's not a core four. We're a team. I get it. But those guys are paid to score. Now, in a 6-1 game, they weren't going to score you 6 goals, obviously.
No.
But game 3, I mean, that game went to overtime. You get a goal from them in OT, you're up 3-0, right? Game 4 was a 1-goal game up until halfway through the third period. You get 1 goal from one of those guys at some point in between that. That's a tied hockey game at that point. Who knows how much that could have shifted momentum. So, yeah, you can put a lot of blame on those guys, right? How much percentage of the cap do they have? You can put about that much blame on those 4 players.
Yeah.
Right? I think that makes sense. That's kind of fair, I would say. So yeah, it's just outrageous that we're still have the same problems popping up. All right, different little cast of characters. The secondary characters are new, but the main cast is still there, and it's just the same movie time and time and time again. And I just so gutted, man. Friday is going to be a gong show, an absolute gong show.
Yeah, I'm going to be at Scotiabank Arena watching it, because I decided let's go watch the game with everybody at the arena. Really loving that decision right now.
Oh, you're going down like Maple Leaf Square?
No, like inside the arena, they were doing like you can actually like get
you can go in
to go in and watch. The vibes would be great. It'd be nice.
I mean, I don't know. You know what? Let's. Did you give me your ugly, by the way, or did I just go off on a rant there? I mean, we kind of just went through all of it, but
my ugly was just the top line was terrible. I can't even say the word I want to say.
Yeah, the whole game, the whole game was ugly. Like ultimately,
yeah, the whole game was ugly.
The whole game was ugly. Everyone, it was just terrible. Even coaching, wasn't nearly enough, from Berube to change things up, to make adjustments, to find a way to stop the bleeding and find success for his team. Start to finish, brutal performance, and no one was really able to get the Maple Leafs going in the right direction until the final minute of the game, when Nick Robertson finally put one in the back of the net to end a 142-minute shutout streak for Sergei Bobrovsky. He's back, by the way. Officer Bob is back, and that's been a big problem for the Maple Leafs. All right, let's come back, Dave, and let's look ahead to game number 6. Are the Leafs dead in the water, or is there some things they could do to stay alive? We'll get to that and more next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti, on the heels of a Game 5 loss for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They get crushed 6-1 by the Florida Panthers. They drop the series. It's now 3-2 for Florida, and they have a chance to go back home on Friday night and win and advance for the second time in 3 years, defeat the Leafs in round 2 to go on to the Eastern Conference Final. Obviously, tonight was an absolute debacle. What would the Maple Leafs need to do, you think, Dave, in Game 6 to give themselves a much better chance, a fighting shot to stay alive? Or simply, Dave, do you think this team's just dead in the water? Because I'm almost at that point where I just don't think they got the heart to get it done. I think that they're almost checked out of this thing, and that is so upsetting to say and have that feeling about this team right now. Apathy is starting to really set in here.
For me, it's it has more to do with, are they going to put in the effort that's needed, right? Are they going to If they find a way to start winning some puck battles, and those turn to chances on net.
I just don't like why didn't they do that in game 5? Why didn't they do that in game 4? Like, why do you have to wait until a literal do or die in game 6? Or are they just physically not capable of hanging with the Panthers in this type of game? That might be the case. That really might be the case.
Very well could be the case. Like, you hear them say, we got to stop letting the game, we can't be going to them, or the game can't be going to them, right? Or we're trying to
let the game come to us. We got to take the game to them.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, if you're saying it, go and do it. That's probably the biggest problem right there. Is it's a mentality thing. You have to go out and do it. It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. We've known this for 9 years, right? So you got to go out and do it. And I think that's the only thing they can do is they got to battle. They got to get to the scoring areas. They got to get, yes, the last 2 games, Bobrovsky has allowed 1 goal. But let's be honest here. It's been the easiest 2 games Sergei Bobrovsky has had to play because the chances haven't been there. Relying on William Nylander breakaways, that ain't a strategy either because Bobrovsky's now figured that out. You need to find a way to get to the scoring areas. Do what Nick Robertson did. Go to the scoring areas. Win some puck battles. Like, if you're going to take any solace, it's that you can see how it can happen. Games 1, 2, and even 3, you can see how you were able to find ways to get that puck in the back of the net. It wasn't anything extraordinary. Simply hard work, battles. Yeah. Can they do it? That's the biggest question we have is, are they just at this point, have they been worn down to the point where they just can't do it anymore?
Well, that and a willingness to actually shoot the puck, right? Like the actual shot attempts, it seemed like they were willing to just shoot a little more and it was making its way, through the net. Like you look at the shot attempts for Toronto, the last 2 games, 44 shot attempts tonight to 66. So they were out. The attempts were 22 more for Florida. The attempts were 49 to 35 for Florida in game number 4. Okay, game 3, a little closer, 69 to 50. But then it's just, they just need to shoot the puck and hope for a good bounce because that seems to be the only way that they're going to be able to beat Bobrovsky at this point. There's not a lot of hope. I'll say that, man. There's not a lot of hope for this team after a 2 dud performances in a row. If it was just 1, I think I would be, okay. But it seems like this team is kind of dead in the water, and it's really unfortunate because then you start to think, well, if they lose Friday night in game 6, like that's 9 years where this team's failed to win more than 1 round. There'll be only 2 rounds won in 9 years, and they've never won more than, this will be 6 games, I guess, in 1 playoff in 9 years. You start to think like, what has to happen? How drastic do changes need to be? They changed the GM, they changed the coach. This offseason is a very pivotal one for the Leafs. They've got 2 massive free agents who are due for some contracts in Mitch Marner and John Tavares. You've got Matthew Nyes also in need of a RFA deal as well. If they can't get it done again, how different does this team look going forward? That's kind of something that was already kind of poking through my mind. As
you ain't the only one, man. You ain't the only one.
I know. It's brutal. It's brutal. And I hate to already be thinking that way and thinking negatively, but I just doesn't look like this team has the heart and soul to will themselves to victory. Now, we'll end on a positive. When this team is doubted, it's usually when they do show up, right? And Leafs Nation got all cocky after the team went up 2-0 on Florida, and they got cocky. And that they very quickly got humbled by losing 2 in a row, or 3 in a row here. And now everyone's off that Toronto train, thinking that this team's dead in the water. Their backs are up against the wall. Sometimes they come back, and when you least expect it, Toronto pulls out a win. Maybe game 6 will be one of those nights. It's possible. I don't got a lot of faith in it happening, but that's usually when they pull it out. So if you want to end today's show on a positive, that's the only way I could possibly look at it, is when you doubt this team, sometimes that's when they band together and get it done. Maybe it'll happen in game 6.
Yeah, that's we'll have to hope that they can mentally reset, because that's, I think, it'd be the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
As Mitch Marner says, flush it down the toilet. Well, might be more than just the memory of this game that they'll flush down the toilet at this point, Mitch.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right. I tried to end it on a positive note. You had to throw in that little comment there,
look,
Dave.
I will say this. The Panthers, they won 3 in a row. Can they now win 4 in a row? It's tough. It's tough to do, but I mean, they've looked good, but it only gets tougher trying to get the reverse sweep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, somewhat a reverse sweep, but yes, I understand where you're coming from. We'll see in game 6. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back for another episode for you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.